All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping right into an absolute classic, a true David versus Goliath story that literally rewrote the tactical history of football. We are heading back to 1967. This wasn't just a regular game, you know? It was a massive clash of two completely opposite philosophies, Jock Stein's Celtic taking on Helenio Herrera's Grande Inter. It's the ultimate story of how pure, inventive, attacking football smashed right into the ultimate defensive machine.
Okay, let's dive into this. How exactly do you turn a 90-minute tactical stalemate into an unforgettable story? As football fans, we all know the mechanics of a match can sometimes get a little bogged down in the minutia. But if we apply the core principles of great sports storytelling, we can unlock this incredible drama that's hiding right there inside the tactics.
To pull this off, we're actually going to borrow a framework from the Content Marketing Institute. They outline 5 golden rules of sports storytelling. Make it memorable, find the good story, use vibrant language, write for your audience, and, this is the absolutely crucial one for us today, craft a cheat sheet for terms. We're going to apply that last rule right off the bat. Because to really appreciate the sheer magnitude of this 1967 final, we've got to have a cheat sheet for our main antagonist.
Enter Catenaccio. Now, in Italian, that translates literally to door bolt or chain. Just let that vibrant imagery sink in for a second. A door bolt. It implies something totally impenetrable. Catenaccio wasn't just a formation, right? It was this highly organized tactical system built on a completely ruthless backline defense. The whole point was to absolutely nullify the opponent and kill any goal-scoring chances. It was, quite literally, the footballing equivalent of a fortress.
But this fortress wasn't built overnight. It actually started way back in the 1930s with an Austrian coach named Karl Rappan and his Swiss Verrou, which, funnily enough, is just French for door bolt. He dropped a player right behind the defensive line to sweep up danger. Then, moving into the 1940s, Italian coaches like Giuseppe Viani started tweaking it. By the 1950s, Nereo Rocco was using it to take these smaller clubs to unbelievable heights in Serie A. But then came the 1960s. A manager named Helenio Herrera took this system to Inter Milan and man, he perfected it into the ultimate defensive weapon.
So Herrera rolled out a 5-3-2 formation. He had 4 defenders playing a super strict man-to-man marking system, practically breathing down the necks of the opposition's attackers. But his real stroke of genius was the 5th man, Armando Picci. Picci played as the libero, or the sweeper, sitting deep behind the defense to clean up absolutely everything. But here's the wild twist about Herrera's Grande Inter. It wasn't purely defensive. Herrera used guys like Giacinto Facchetti as an attacking fullback. Facchetti was a total pioneer. He was a defender who would sprint up the pitch and score off these blistering counterattacks. They'd absorb all your pressure, steal the ball, and boom, strike before you even knew what hit you. All of this perfectly sets the stage for the 1967 European Cup final in Lisbon. Talk about a complete clash of ideologies. On one hand, you've got Inter Milan's Catenaccio, strict man-marking, super deep defense, leaning heavily on that sweeper. And on the other hand, Jock Stein's Celtic. Known later as the Lisbon Lions, Celtic played this incredibly fluid 4-2-4 system. It was all about relentless pressure, and crucially, they had their own overlapping fullbacks who pushed super high up the pitch to overwhelm you. It was literally the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. And then, disaster strikes for Celtic almost instantly. Just 7 minutes into the match, Celtic's right back, Jim Craig, gives away a penalty. Inter star Sandro Mazzola steps up, and just like that, it's 1-0 Inter. Now, against any regular team, going down a goal early is a tough break. But against Herrera's Grande Inter, it was pretty much a historical death sentence. The ultimate defensive trap had officially been sprung. Inter had their lead, and now they could just lock that door bolt and wait to counterattack.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the incredible narrative twist it reveals. Check out this reflection from Jim Craig, the very guy who gave away that disastrous penalty. He later said, in actual fact, it was the best thing that could have happened because they immediately went back into the Catenaccio style, which meant that we got all the possession and dominated play. Think about that. Because Inter went up 1-0 so early, they completely retreated into their shell. Their dangerous attacking fullback, Facchetti, he just stopped coming forward. He stayed back to defend. Ironically, this handed Celtic total free rein to attack in wave after relentless wave.
But even though they completely dominated possession in the first half, Celtic's attackers were just hitting a brick wall. Inter's goalkeeper was having the game of his absolute life. So, at halftime, Jock Stein makes a brilliant tactical tweak. In the Celtic locker room reflections, they noted, "This is a perfect example of what we spoke about at halftime, the ball being cut back away from the defense." See, Inter's defenders were strictly man-marking Celtic's forwards right inside the goal box. Stein figured out the open space wasn't near the goal, it was just outside of it. By cutting the ball backward, away from the net, Celtic bypassed that suffocating man-marking completely, and that exact adjustment, it led directly to Tommy Jamel smashing in the equalizer. Momentum shifted, and Stevie Chalmers eventually bagged the winner.
That 2-1 victory for Celtic wasn't just a win, it was the total demolition of a footballing ideology. Sandro Mazzola, Inter's lone goal scorer, actually reflected on the match with this really heartbreaking realization. He said, "We were really sad after the game as we understood that we had come to the end of an era." The Lisbon Lions didn't just beat Inter, they shattered the whole mystique of Catenaccio. They proved that pure, beautiful, inventive attacking football could dismantle literally the most ruthless defensive system ever devised. Helenio Herrera actually left the club a year later, and just like that, the golden cycle of Grande Inter was over.
To really put this into perspective, you cannot overstate the psychological and tactical devastation of this loss for Inter Milan. 43. That is the staggering number of years it took Inter to win another European Cup after the Lisbon Lions cracked their code in 1967. Think about that. They didn't lift that trophy again until the year 2010. A single 90-minute game inflicted a massive wound that took more than 4 decades to heal.
Which brings us to our final thought today. We started out talking about the rules of sports storytelling. When you really understand the tactics, when you've got that cheat sheet in your head and you can visualize those sweeping liberos and overlapping fullbacks at work, a standard 90-minute game transforms from just a bunch of random events into a high-stakes thriller. If a single match in Lisbon could literally end a dynasty, shatter an impenetrable door bolt, and rewrite the tactics of football forever, what incredible stories do you think are hiding in the next game you watch? Keep your eyes peeled, look for the tactics, and find the story. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.